breaking news coming on the show. 10 hours have now been allotted for discussion on Vande Mataram. The discussion will begin in Lok Sabha on Monday at 11 in the morning. Prime Minister Modi will be present during that discussion, and discussions on electoral reforms will be held on Tuesday. So the session will first start with discussions on Vande Mataram. That will be taken up on Monday. On Tuesday, there will be discussions on electoral reforms, which will go on until Wednesday. This decision was made by the Business Advisory Committee meeting, and the decision has now been officially communicated. So as far as precedence is concerned there, Vande Mataram will be discussed first, followed by electoral reforms. Brijesh Pandey joining us live. Brijesh, getting more clarity there as far as the House and the business of House is concerned, starting Monday. First Vande Mataram and then electoral reforms.
Well, it looks like that the government's will has prevailed over the opposition's demand of first discussing SIR, because what we have been given to understand is that during the meeting of a Business Advisory Committee, the government made it very clear to the opposition parties that that they are not averse to discussion on electoral reforms, but they do not want to be coerced into this by the opposition parties. They said that we are not running away from the discussion, but the first thing they want to do is to do a discussion on Vande Mataram, and this is the agreement between the Treasury benches and the opposition, that on Monday for 10 hours starting from 11 a.m. When the Parliament commences, there's going to be a discussion on Vande Mataram. The Prime Minister, what we have been given to understand is that the Prime Minister is likely to be through this discussion, but there's no clarity on whether the Prime Minister himself will take part in this particular discussion or not. So there's no clarity on that. But after that, on Tuesday and Wednesday, again for 10 hours, this electoral reforms, discussion on electoral reforms has been slated. And this is the broad agreement which has been made between the opposition and the Treasury benches. And going by the outcome, it looks like that from tomorrow onwards we might see a smooth functioning of House in both houses of Parliament.
All right, one can only hope for that. But let's start with Vande Mataram discussion. It's been 150 years of the national song, and the government is very keen on discussing the cultural and the historic significance of Vande Mataram, and a 10-hour-long discussion on Monday.
Well, absolutely. What the government says is that, that it's a national song, and somehow it has never been accorded the prime position in which it should have enjoyed. And there are many who are not aware of the historicity of this particular, of the national song. And this is the reason why, the nation needs to know, and also the fact that, the historical importance of this particular song also needs to be told to the world. And this is the reason why, this particular debate, this particular discussion was planned by the government when this winter session of Parliament was commenced. It's a brief winter session of only 19 days. And this is going to be, as per the government sources, the highlight of this winter session of Parliament.
That's right, highlight of the winter session of the Parliament, and followed by which I think is the much required discussion on electoral reforms. And as we were discussing earlier in our previous show, this is not going to be a discussion on SIR, and government will have to tiptoe and around SIR to discuss electoral reforms. So SIR is not on the agenda, but electoral reforms are.
Well, I think, with opposition, the kind of, belligerent stand they have taken, it'll be very, very interesting to watch whether the opposition sticks to what has been agreed in the BAC and not talk about SIR and all, because, today also several opposition MPs said that, their BLOs and people are dying, and the government is just trying to get their will prevail in the Business Advisory Committee. So it'll be very interesting to see how it pans out, which all aspect the opposition parties raise inside the Parliament during this 10-hour, which has been slated for discussion on electoral reforms, whether the deletion, addition of voter list is also raised, and also the deaths of BLOs, which are who are people, the BLOs who are committing suicide due to what they have been claiming as insane work pressure which has been exerted on them. So all of this is very clear that the next Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday is going to be a power-packed days in Parliament during this winter session of Parliament for sure.
Absolutely, power-packed days, and it would be fair to say at this point that the government's will on what it wants to discuss has now prevailed, because this is exactly what the government wanted. The centre wanted to first discuss Vande Mataram and then perhaps discuss electoral reforms and not discuss SIR issue at all. So for now, I think this seems to be some sort of arrangement that both the opposition and the central government have arrived at for smooth functioning of the Parliament.
Well, absolutely. I think, the government also realized that if you go by the way opposition was, hell-bent on making sure that there's first discussion on SIR, the kind of concerns they have as far as functioning of Election Commission, and also the electoral reforms which the government is trying to, implement. So there was this concern, and the opposition had made it very, very clear that they will not allow both houses to function till there is some sort of clarity which is reached on whether there is going to be any discussion on electoral reforms or not. It will be very, very interesting to find out exactly how and why discussion on particular SIR has been dropped, or whether SIR forms to be or gets to be part of the electoral reforms debate. I think clarity will emerge a bit later, but it's very clear that the government has been able to convince the opposition that they are not averse to discussion on to discuss electoral reform. But first they want discussion on Vande Mataram 150th year of the national song, and then only after that they are willing to discuss this electoral reform. It'll be very, very interesting to find out, Shweta, as I said, whether SIR constitutes gets to be a part of that discussion or not.